Hey everybody, it's Jillian. So let's just get down to brass tacks. What are gene variants? Gene variants are viruses, are cells that are run by viruses. They're phages, microphages and macrophages. What's a phage? It's a bacteriophage. What's a bacteriophage? It's a bacteria run by a virus. What is a mycophage? It is a yeast run by a virus. It's not like it's unique. Every single yeast in your body is run by a virus. So here's the thing. You have your microbiome, which is viruses, which they are the leader, they are everything. Viruses, parasites, protozoa, proteins, fungus, and bacteria. Every single thing in your microbiome is run by a microphage and a macrophage. There are the immortal gods, like the tumor, like immortal cells, the germline cells, the tumor cells, the ones that they studied for Henrietta Lacks. Then you have the demigods, the cells that you can either, that are kind of like interchangeable. They're not the germline cells. And so that's what the Greek gods are all about, is that you have specific immortal cells like the tumor cells, okay? And then you have specific demigod cells, and they also run your hormones. And when you have viruses that are programmed to elicit more hormones from a person, this is when they have specific behaviors. The people, the person, the animal, the plant has specific behaviors because a virus ran a program that elicited more of the energy from this, thing. And then also from this, environment. And also your environment and what you feed your mind, your body, and your spirit will also program those viruses to exponentially reflect what you're trying to do. And so it's very, very interesting now that I've finally decoded all the different words in genetics and we finally figured out viruses. You can't kill a virus. Okay, so when you have cancer, disease, chronic illness, autoimmune disorders, you're obese or you're underweight, you have food issues, it's all viral run, and you can't destroy a virus because you don't want to destroy yourself. And that's what people are doing. They're destroying themselves because they don't like the programming with themselves. And they don't know how to change the programming. The only thing they know how to do is self-destruct. And that's the crux of it all, is self-destruction comes from not knowing how to reprogram yourself. Okay? And so when we figured out that salt is the cure for cancer cells, okay, cancer cells are run by a virus. Every single autoimmune disorder, disease, chronic illness, whatever, okay, hormonal imbalance is all run by a virus. You don't know what kind of virus it is. It doesn't even matter. You don't know, you don't know what the cells are because they're all of your cells, okay? You're not going to go and try to isolate your hormonal cells because there's no freaking way you can do that. So what do? You have to add more sodium to your diet. You have to deal with all the viral pain of evolution and open up your ionic gates, open up your colon gates, open up your blood vessels, and allow your body to finally respirate on its own without you going to the medical holistic system and they're turning your hormones on and off and vasodilating and vasoconstricting your blood vessels with all their pills, powders, and supplements. And so you have the power, the energy within the salt, the sodium, chloride, you have the coating of the food supply, you have the air to breathe, you have the microbiome, which is the viruses, the parasites, the protozoa, the proteins, the fungus, and bacteria, the community of organisms that are going to be in your corner to help you survive. And that's why people have infection, like parasitic infections, fungal infections, because they don't know how to balance out their community of organisms. It's like in your area where one group, we got like 5 different groups and, they're all kind of like, they're all trying to work together, but they all have issues with each other too. And one seems to kind of grow exponentially and try to take over others. That's kind of like your body. An infection is when you have so much growth in one area that's looking to take over. And when something's looking to take over and they're not exactly working with everybody else, then that's when death and destruction happens, because then people start rebelling or they're, being too drunk with power. Okay. And you see that in all, like, King of the, what is it? Not King of the Hill, Lord of the Flies. Okay, there's also been experiments in academia, in colleges, where they give certain people power over others and they become drunk with power. And so you don't want to have certain aspects of your microbiome drunk with power, because then they will take over and do crazy crap that you're not expecting or not wanting to deal with. And then people self-destruct. And so, the whole jelly juice mentality is not to stay on the J juice forever. It is to really retroactively open up all the different viral ionic gates and deal with the energy of all the stuff that's been suppressed. It's like, you're going around in your community and you can't help but pick up viruses and pick up parasites and protozoa and proteins and fungus and bacteria. But what happens is your body's not releasing. And so you are accumulating all this viral energy and other types of microbiomal and microbial energy, and it's not being organized in any way, shape, or form. It's not being released. You're not utilizing it to your best, to your best whatever. And so then the body starts getting mixed messages from all the different viral programming and all the different microbial programming. And this is where obesity happens. This is where a person is underweight happens. This is when a person, feeds their mind all these different end of the world scenarios. And then they start, looping and looping. And also what autoimmune disorders are is the body trying to evolve and it stays stuck in a loop because it's not being released. It's not being organized in such a way. The body is deficient of nutrition and energy and logic because they're deficient in nutrition and energy, and they self-destruct. And then they feed their body and their mind all these traumatizing videos. I'm telling you, the activist world will traumatize people into self-destructing. And so yesterday, I'm telling you, was case in point. That email from that lady who says, I would rather pass away than step over the dead bodies of these animals so I could eat. I'm like, it just tripped me out because this person took up for indigenous populations. Indigenous people have livestock. Indigenous people did not just eat plants and freaking fruits and nuts. Indigenous people, the first Native Americans, were eating buffalo. And they were so freaking thankful that they had the buffalo. And so that's what I'm saying. All these activist groups are causing people to self-destruct. And so that's when you don't know how to change your own programming, you self-destruct. And so, humans, yes, we have been programmed in some way. And we still have a soul, okay? Because even those that have been bioengineered, and they've been bioengineered, well, no, you don't know, but I have sneaking suspicions that some people that I knew in my past that were part of academia, that had parents for doctors, that were in heavily into research and heavily into the military and high levels of government, I'm sure their kids have been bioengineered and had things done to them and then tried to exercise the strengths and just kind of let the weaknesses atrophy. And so we all been bioengineered. They still are sentient beings. They are still viable human beings, but they have been bioengineered to be programmed in a specific way. And some have been college professors. Others, are like Stephen Hawking. Others are some people like the Olympians. You can see all the different diverse strengths in our population, and you might guess that they might have been bioengineered in some way. Not that maybe they knew they were being bioengineered, but when you release certain things in the atmosphere, or when certain genetics come together that have been bioengineered over a long period of time, you will get a specific offspring that may have certain strengths and weaknesses, okay? And so just realize that. It's not a freaking big deal. The food's bioengineered, you are bioengineered, the air is bioengineered, the water is bioengineered. Your whole house is bioengineered. Your kids are bioengineered. If you just accept that you've been bioengineered, life will be a lot easier for all of you. If you realize that, yes, there are animals that are your pets, and there are animals that are livestock that are your food source. Get that through your head. There is a distinction between the two. Not every animal out there is your pet. People who don't know the difference between a pet and a food and a wild animal that's just living, is mixing all different contexts together. Not say that they're, separate and they're conning you, but it's like they have their specific categories. Okay? You see a squirrel out there. Right now, the squirrel is just a wild animal for me. My dog, let me tell you, even if I was starving, I would never eat my dog. But my dog is my pet. And that pork in my freezer is my food. It was, yes, a sentient being at one point. Okay, so if that pork doesn't happen anymore and my dog and I need to eat, I'm going to go kill that squirrel. So at some point, all the things that are in your world, You will figure out and prioritize based upon your needs as a human. Because could Mother Nature run without humans? Absolutely. Do humans have to be here on this earth? Not necessarily. The animals will still do what they do. They have their own circle of life. They have balance, and nature will keep the balance. But humans are part of nature. But we are definitely, I would say, viruses are probably the top of the food chain. But we can even control viruses. So no, viruses aren't top of the food chain. Humans are top of the food chain, and we are run by viruses. And so when you splice and dice viruses and then add them into genomes or into genetics, and there's no way to add them in, they're already there, and you're just taking the host and that virus together and splicing and dicing and protein docking them, and then you are getting, this type of outcome. And it could be an animal, it could be a human, it could be a plant, it could be a bird, it could be anything you want it to be, as long as you understand genotypes, phenotypes, and, species. Okay? This is all just, biology and physics, understanding thermodynamics also too, because you also have to take the environment into account, universe into account. Okay? And so you're mixing, what you have to do is biophysics, because cell biology is run by thermodynamics, and it follows the laws of thermodynamics. And so, knowing the basics of physics and biology will have you understand how humans are programmed, how animals are programmed, and how, your society is programmed. And if you just understand this and realize that you can change the programming in your body. My friend Renzo didn't have to pass away, but he was so compartmentalized by academia that all he knew was biology, and then whatever he was teaching in the university over there at UCSF, or not UCSF, at San Francisco State. But he didn't understand that there's thermodynamics in cells. He needed more salt inside. He needed to deal with the pain. He needed to, have a very diverse diet, which he probably did, but he didn't know how to release the old programming. So whatever diet you're bringing in, it's not going to process what you're bringing in, because you have viruses that are producing antibodies that will attack food sources too. Because food is a programming that viruses can be, programmed to not to ignore it. I mean, how many people are out there that you have on your Facebook that you don't even acknowledge, you don't even look at, you ignore? Okay, that's what some viruses do. They'll ignore food. They won't process that food. It'll go right through your system, or there'll be antibodies to attack it. One of the two. And so you're not actually deriving 100% benefit from your food supply. And so that's why a person who is very obese or very underweight can eat whatever they want, and it doesn't do a damn thing for them, because they have viral programming that is programmed to attack, destroy, and make you ignore the nutrients that you're bringing into your body. Because you're like, how does this person can eat whatever they want and they're not gaining any weight? And they're so skinny. And it's because they have viral programming that is allowing the energy to go so exponential that their metabolism is so high they can't keep any kind of substance on them, and they are exposed to the elements. No different than when you have viral programming that is causing hormones to then accumulate, and you're not releasing, and you're atrophying, and you're vasoconstricted in your colon and vasoconstricted in your blood vessels. So then you retain the weight, the protein, and all the big bones and everything. And yes, that's why, here in Ohio, we have a lot of really big boned people who will kick people's asses. Very aggressive energy and very strong energy over here. Well, hell yeah. The meat, the milk, the food, and all that stuff, and the weather. And then you go to California and you look at like San Francisco and LA, and they're like, next to nothing, all the hippie people and playing the starvation games. And you're like, okay, let's put those two groups together and give them a few swords and see who wins. Okay. And so, yes, what your belief system, your lifestyle, all of that, your hormones, the viruses, okay, the programming within each of the community. When I got here to Ohio back in 2010, I had the worst flu. Like, I remember my husband, like in October of 2010, I was so sick that I was like in fetal positions coughing. I was coughing so hard that I was pulling muscles in my diaphragm. And it was the most miserable experience. And then we moved to Florida right after, like in the following, like February. So October, we were here in Ohio in 2010. Then we went to Florida in February. I got sick yet again. So all the viral energy is very different in each of the cities. And so when you go to different microbiomes, you better be able to have what it takes to deal with all the different microbial diversity and be able to expel the excess and take on the programming and adapt to it. Okay, so I finally adapted to Ohio. And so so the spring times were not that bad, but then this last spring, because of this new virus, was really exponentially worse. Not because there's new flora and fauna, because no, everything is relatively the same. Ohio has its vegetation. It's not going to be growing bananas tomorrow because the bananas won't grow here in Ohio. I don't see palm trees out here in Ohio. But no, it's the viruses that we're taking on to the spores of the pollen that were in the air that we're breathing in. And then yes, if you have a sensitive working immune system, you're going to sneeze, you're going to blow your nose. You might have even a little bit of a headache. I haven't had headaches in a while. My dog sneezes because she goes outside because all the different viral energy is floating through the backyard or animals have gone through the yard. And so you want to be so sensitive to the environment so you can know when a new virus is in the environment and you feel the heat. You're not taking something for it. You're not suctioning anything out. You're not doing all these things. So you don't want to feel anything, but you're feeling the heat. I blow my nose in the morning. I get rid of poop. I drink my drinks. I have a coffee and cream. Not that I need to do it for poop. I already pooped this morning, but I like the taste of the chocolate and the coffee and the cream. And this is my fun. You're like, wow, Jillian, you're so freaking exciting. I don't need to go out and do things so crazy full of energy to have fun. I like putting my mind to use, and so that's the thing with, I know I say, a lot, but that's my little filler, while I'm thinking, but what is it? Oh God. That train of thought was like, whew, I needed to take a break for a second and take a breath. But yes, I like put my mind to use because that's where I find the most effective, where I feel like, I'm winning and beating myself. Because yesterday, when somebody was helping me and then they decided not to because they didn't agree with my politics of where I was going, I was like, okay, be careful of who you help and who helps you. What is their agenda? What's your agenda when you're helping somebody? What is your agenda when you want someone to help you? Are you using them? Are they using you? That's the thing that we all have to figure out with friends and family and with people who are helping us and stuff. And make sure that it's not so selfish that you're just sucking the life out of them, and make sure that it's almost like quid pro quo. And when it's not quid pro quo and you feel like it's not quid pro quo, then you pull out. And so, I figured out that, I need to now work on my own and figure out that I don't need really anyone except for my husband, because we have a working relationship, and anyone that wants to be in a relationship with me on an equal basis, that even if I challenge them and they challenge me and we don't take the challenge, that we still are around for a reason. It's not because we just want to be around, and there has to be a common ground. There must be a common ground. If there's no common ground, and what is that common ground? Well, you figured it out. What brings you together with people? What brought me together with that person is because we had a common ground of the book. Okay. And she wanted to help me edit it, and that's fine. And then I figured out that things were not going the right direction. And so that's when I switched to Grammarly and figured out that Grammarly can probably give me a lot more than what I was getting, which no big deal. I welcome all the different feedback and stuff, but sometimes you outgrow certain things and you figure out what brought you together, and then you figure out why they backed away. And then you realize that, yes, so why I do things is because I want to beat myself at my own games, I want to rise to another level. Okay. So, and nobody please stop sending me. All right. You guys got to stop sending me private messages. Anyways, whatever. But so this is the thing, what I do is because I want to beat myself at my own game. I have my own accomplishments, and it really is individual. It's not where I have to bring in everybody. If people want to be a part of this and they want to improve themselves and they want to make themselves better, great. I have no problem. I don't need to make money off them. They don't need to make money off of me. We're in this together because we all have our own individual battles. And so I know that money has always been a driving force in a lot of people that I hung out with a lot, because, they saw something that could potentially be a moneymaker, and, they glommed on very quickly. And then I realized that, when someone gloms on something and they want to direct something because they see the money in it, there's no money in J juice, because you're dealing with yourself. Yeah, you can write a book, but is that book going to be really authentic? Because have you actually been healing? Have you actually been really seeing some things that nobody else is really going to see? And what do you have to say that's so unique that's going to make someone want to buy your book and read it, right? And I'm not even saying that people can buy my book and read it, but I want to be able to articulate everything that I've been seeing that just ran so hypocritical to me that it was just like, what the hell? And not that I want to save all of you, because there's no freaking saving anybody. But here, this is giving you just like everything that you were never told, that was purposely withheld from you because of whatever, or they didn't know. I mean, do I want to give them that kind of credit that the system didn't know? Well, I don't know. They use freaking salt and saline in IV bags, but the thing with the IV bags, it bypasses your first and second lines of defense. So here, medical holistic system, this is where you went wrong, and this is why you're pushing the therapeutics, because you know that everyone that you have been looking after does not have what it takes to deal with expelling on their own. And so I get it. You're trying to clean up your mess by saying, okay, everybody get a whatever. But with all of the anti-therapeutic campaigns, they took such a foothold that now people are going to question every single thing that's coming out of the CDC, coming out of the FDA, whatever. And is that all by design? Probably not. I don't know. So, yes, there are common ground is Earth's salty crust. And then also to how do we work together as a community and understand that not everything needs to be politicized, that there is definitely separate things that you can put into. Yes. And maybe, the Indians did what they had to do because that's all they knew how to do. And now we as a civilized society, do we really need to kill animals in order to eat? Well, unless they actually have given us an alternative that's 100%, we're going to have to do what we've done back in the days. So how do you get, all of that food that's going to replicate the livestock and all of that? And so, yes, there's a common ground, and there's also balance, and who determines the balance and when. I mean, I know lions go after, zebras, and it's not pretty watching a killer whale eat a seal. I mean, Mother Nature is very brutal, and I would not want to be watching Mother Nature shows when it comes to eating, because I would be traumatized, and so would a kid, and so would an adult watching, Mother Nature with humans and animals. Okay. So all of that's the same thing. I would not watch a nature show that deals with animal. I mean, like we did. Okay. Here's the thing. Back in Mutual of Omaha, back in the Wild Kingdom, back in the 80s, we watched Mutual of Omaha. We watched a cheetah go after a gazelle. Okay. That's on TV, and I'm used to that. I don't have any kind of relationship with the gazelle. So, but yes, I have little rabbits out here, and watching a dog go after a rabbit and kill it. I don't think I want to watch that. Okay. So it's all what kind of relationship you have with that animal. And if you've seen the same, little rabbit run across your lawn all the time, and then all of a sudden a freaking dog comes out and kills it, it's Mother Nature, but it's not fun. So here's the thing. Everything is individual. Okay. I want all of you guys to individually figure out what it is that you want to do with yourself, with your future, with your kids, whatever. I'm writing a book so I can give you guys everything, the lay of the land, what I see, how I see it, and you can determine if that works for you or not. I'm going to still do what I do, and once that book is done, whatever that is, then who knows what's next. I haven't gone that far, but there's going to be a lot of what's next, because I'm going to be around for a while. But right now, this is the project that I'm in. And so all of you, should be, or not should be, all of you are going to be in a project on some level. and you're going to make, you're going to make your goals, and then you will follow your goals, and then you'll make the goals and you'll be done, and then you'll go to the next one. If you're doing the J juice and you have, plenty of time to keep doing stuff, it's not just you have this one goal and that's it. You're going to have so many goals in this lifetime if you allow yourself to keep going, if you don't take away your life force bit by bit. So anyways, I know I've been rambling, but I've just been, thinking a lot that why do people have friends? Why do they have, acquaintances? And what kind of relationship, do you have with people, and why? And then it's that balance. And the common ground is the salty crust beneath our feet, yes, and the food supply. And then it's also the programming, because there's a lot of programming out there. And when you have that common ground of salt, what is that salt energizing? Is it energizing someone to self-destruct, or is it energizing someone to prolong their life? And do you want to hang out with someone who is self-destructing all the time? Because that is catching. It's very easy to follow a crowd who is self-destructing. Okay? And it's also very easy to follow a crowd that's not. And so this is where we must make the choice. The split in the road is life or death. It will always come down to life or death. I don't care what kind of politics, religion, science you have adopted and belief system and whatever. It comes down to the laws of life and the laws of death. Everything else is just noise. And so that's what I'm going to be getting across in this book, is the fact that everything is black and white, life and death, and there are the rules of life and the rules of death, the laws of life and the laws of death, and there's man-made law that will then use context to violate the laws of life and justify it through politics, religion, and science. Because science is the study of phenomena and applying a narrative based upon intention. And money is the driving factor. Money, and then also, fame and influencing somebody. Because that's really what it came down to with that editor person, was they're trying to influence the information in my book to reflect their intentions. And when I saw the way they responded to some of my stuff, I felt the tone. I couldn't put my finger on what the deal was, but I felt the tone. And that's when I realized I needed to get out. And that's why I turned to Grammarly, because Grammarly is just going to be, it's unbiased. Grammarly will just help me with the basics and maybe some other stuff. I will then, with all the stuff that I learned from her, I will start questioning my sentences and looking at them from several points of view, and then make sure brevity, conciseness, obviously, organization, and what's my freaking point in this paragraph, in this sentence, in this chapter, and then have it in a logical order. Okay, so it really comes down to on your own. It doesn't come down to having a slew of people that you have as your minions or your whatever. And all of this virus stuff is individual. Okay. And so anyways, I'm going to go. But all right, I'll talk to you later. Bye.